Helen, have you talked to her about, you know, zombie takeout?
Yes, years ago.
Years?
What's up? Welcome to episode 196 of
Zombie takeout.
the B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, got some news. This may take a while. From Cineblend, one story. Zack Snyder fires back, calls Terry Gilliam's Watchmen insane. You may recall that recently producer Joel Silver held court in regards to Terry Gilliam's unmade adaptation of Watchmen. That version, penned by Sam Hamm, what a name, remains a mystery to most, though Silver shared the considerably different ending to the material. Deviating far from the source material, it essentially rewrote the entire mythos, a step that Zack Snyder was not going to take with his Watchmen. Silver didn't seem to be a fan of Snyder's film, calling him a slave to the material. Well, Snyder's not going to take that lying down. When the Huffington Post talked to Snyder about these comments, he had plenty to say, particularly in regards to that ending. Quote, "Yeah, the fans would have stormed the castle on that one. So honestly, I made Watchmen for myself. It's probably my favorite movie that I've made. I love the graphic novel, and I really love everything about the movie. I love the style, I just love the movie, and it was a labor of love. And I made it because I knew that the studio would have made the movie anyway, and they would have made it crazy. So finally, I made it to save it from the Terry Gilliams of the world."
Which is such a crazy statement in itself.
Okay, that statement is a little over the line and kind of disrespectful.
Oh, very much so.
Because, Gilliam, absolute genius, going to be influencing film long after he's gone. Zack Snyder, mediocre at best, very, very derivative.
You can boil it down to, though, the guy that made Sucker Punch said he's better than the guy that made 12 Monkeys or Brazil or whatever you want.
I don't know if he said he's better. He said he's better for this movie.
But I think putting it into this context, now I understand it a bit more than what I just heard him saying he's protecting it for the Terry Gilliams of the world.
Like I said, that was a poor choice of words.
Insane.
But he was protecting the story from being severely modified.
I know, the last thing we want to do is go into a movie and not expect to see what we're going to see.
Are you familiar with Watchmen?
No.
I'm barely a comic book geek. I get into them occasionally and kind of, I'll read them for a few months and then kind of lose interest for a while and go back and forth. It's sacred to me. It is generally considered to be the greatest graphic novel ever written. It is on Time's 100 greatest novels ever written. It is a masterpiece. What Gilliam was going to do, well, to use the old cliche, he's drawing a mustache on the Mona Lisa. Snyder made some changes. He changed the ending considerably, very controversial. I actually think he improved it, because the ending in the book, it's my one criticism. It looks kind of silly. And he commercialized some of the costume design, which I wasn't crazy about. But it was good. He was very faithful to the book. Silver said he was a slave to the material, which for me, if you're doing an adaptation, what's the problem with that? Yes, Gilliam is light years beyond Snyder as a director. Nobody would argue that. But he's not very good for adaptations.
But that's the thing. I don't want to see the book verbatim up there, I mean, the comic book as a storyboard for the film. If that's the point, then you could just read the comic. I mean, you don't need to see it performed in front of you. I want to see somebody take some chances and do something different with it and be surprised rather than just seeing what's there already.
But that's not what the fans wanted. The fans of the book want to see the book on screen.
And so it's not really an artistic statement then, is it?
Which is why Snyder's the right guy to do it. He doesn't have an original idea in his head,
No, he doesn't.
The only non-adaptation he did, I think, was Sucker Punch. I'm pretty sure that was an original, and that tanked. I liked it, but very few others have. Everything else he's done and the stuff he's been successful with have been adaptations. He has no creativity, no original ideas. He's very good at following a recipe, making it entertaining, making it pretty, tweaking some things to work better on screen.
But it's institutional cooking, you know? I mean,
When it's an original idea, it's institutional cooking. When it's an adaptation, it's exactly what you want to see if you're a fan of the source material.
it's not institutional cooking. It's eating at Applebee's.
Well, okay, so be it. Again, if it's an original idea, and we've discussed Sucker Punch, I'm not going to say it's a great movie, but that's what he does, and that's why he's good for adaptations. Gilliam is a visionary. He's gonna change things. He needs to stick to original ideas and make his own statements. When he tries to do adaptations, we get things like the Brothers Grimm, which I hate to even think of as a Terry Gilliam film.
But I'm sure even as a failure, it's going to be more interesting than Zack Snyder's successes.
As a fan of the graphic novel, I loved his version of Watchmen. I liked 300. I don't know the graphic novel, but I liked it. He's
I
good
fell
at
asleep
adaptations.
during it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't seen I think it's Dawn of the Dead that he did. I've heard it's good.
I'm never happy with slow motion action.
Yeah, admittedly 300 was a little over stylized.
Because when you do action in slow motion, it is no longer action.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's things moving slowly.
Or at least for long periods where
Exactly.
he did in there. Little bits and pieces are fine.
Like him and John Woo,
Yeah.
that's why I never really got either one of them because it's like, well, if I could, watch things in slow motion, I'd watch fucking Masterpiece Theater or something. I mean, they're moving in regular speed.
Well, the idea of slow motion in an action scene is to see exactly what happens.
Right,
It's
right.
great for occasional use.
Exactly.
Admittedly, he definitely overdid it in 300, and Woo, even though I liked him back in the day, he definitely overdid the slow-mo.
I didn't even like Woo back in the day. I just did not get the appeal of him because he filmed practically an entire movies in slow motion.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just ridiculous. It was like, oh, this is another very suspenseful action scene. I mean,
Yeah, he got a high motion camera and kind of fell a bit too in love with it.
yeah,
Or what's high speed camera? That's what it's
yeah,
called.
yeah.
Anyway, on to this week's movie, and it is from 1986, Critters. This continues our all request trilogy. This was requested by Scott Spencer, and of course that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by 80s movies about adorable but problematic fictional creatures. This is the other one.
And also brought to you by The Power of the Night by Johnny Steele. You got the touch. You got the power. The power of the night. All right, so we have our Midwestern family. They not dysfunctional or anything. I think they went out of their way to paint them as your average Midwestern family. I think they chose
They're sort of the stereotypical Midwestern family.
right. They chose Kansas because it is dead center of the nation. They had them as normal as possible, and out of the sky comes these aliens. They're small little creatures that even fellow aliens refer to them as critters.
Or Krites, technically.
Krites and then critters, yeah.
Well, the kid calls them critters, and then the aliens call them critters. Critters just happens to be very close to Krites.
Right, right. So they land on like near their farm. I think they had a farm,
Mhm.
or they just had a
Well,
house in the
Yeah,
middle
a lot of
of
land.
nowhere. Yeah. And then they wind up terrorizing the town. I guess I could just talk about characters. I mean, because there really isn't much of a plot here.
No.
I'm pretty much done. They terrorize the town. There are these other aliens that come down that are chasing after the critters to either round them back up, kill them, or bring them back. They didn't make that abundantly clear, but
One of them looks
what,
like the bastard child of Frankenfooter and Buster Poindexter.
whatever force necessary, and yeah, hilarity ensues.
Now, taking it back to the beginning of the film.
Oh yes, of course. I just did the plot,
Mhm.
which hardly existed, but you know,
The critters, or krites,
yeah,
escaped from a prison asteroid,
yes.
which I thought was a very interesting way to start off. I kind of forgot about this because I saw this one back, on videotape probably in '87, almost 30 years ago.
I don't think I've seen this one. I think I've seen a sequel. I can't
Okay.
remember. I just don't know which one. I thought I had seen this already, and I was like, no, I don't remember any of this shit.
So I liked that beginning. I completely forgot about the whole sci-fi angle.
Yeah.
Except for, I've kind of remembered the bounty hunters. Or at least I remembered seeing them. I don't remember, didn't remember too much about them. Also, early on, the father of the stereotypical Midwestern family threatens to skin his kid alive if he doesn't do his homework or something.
That is an old expression.
I just couldn't help but think, man, how times have changed. Because nobody would put that line in a movie today.
Oh, right, right. You know what? Was it just me, or was there a lot of a Star Wars tribute going on at the beginning of this film?
The brother and sister thing?
Well, I first thought the cat was named Chewie.
Oh, yeah. Well, there have to be references to Star Wars in this movie. Oh, also, speaking of cliches, a lovable drunk sleeping it off in an unlocked jail cell. Haven't seen that one in a while.
Well, yeah, they just let the guy. Yeah, the attitude towards alcohol in the country has changed so dramatically. I think this was filmed in '84, and that was like around when it was changing, actually, around the early '80s.
Mhm.
But yeah, where it was just he's had too much. Let's let him sleep it off or whatever. No big deal. To criminal offense.
Mhm.
But the Star Wars tribute, what I was getting at was, didn't one of the aliens at the very beginning remind you of someone?
Bib Fortuna.
Yes, he was
The guy working, the warden or something of the prison
exactly.
asteroid, yeah.
He was very similar to Bib Fortuna,
Except he was floating on something.
right?
Kind of a Harkonnen Bib Fortuna combo.
And then it seems like Lucas ripped him back off to make Watto,
The voice, yeah, a little bit.
and kind of the floating thing too.
Yeah.
So think about that. They they took from Lucas to make Bib Fortuna,
Well,
and then Lucas comes back and takes him to make Watto.
did he take the floating thing from this, or did he take it from Harkonnen in Lynch's Dune?
Well, Harkonnen had to float because he was, too fat and big.
Yeah.
But, Watto was just, he
Had
was
wings.
about the same size and everything.
Right. True.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, a movie like this in the mid '80s, you're gonna have a huge Star Wars influence, if for no other reason than to cash in on it.
I wish I could pronounce what the copy of the copy was, though. The Kwisatz.
Is that Rock?
Yes, I could never get that.
That's the one who can be in two places at once.
Well, that's kind of like, when you get the copy of the copy of the copy of the copy. That is what Watto is.
Oh, yeah.
A costuming.
Mm-hmm. And also, along the lines of the Star Wars references, the krites or critters are being chased by bounty hunters, which, let's face it, Empire made bounty hunters cool.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I liked that they were shapeshifters. They had blank faces in the beginning, and they had to choose someone on Earth who they were going to emulate. Very nice way around, not being noticed on other planets. Until you get to the costuming and the giant guns.
Now, how awesome would it have been if they could have gotten like Sting or Prince to have played this guy instead of making up Johnny Steele?
Rockstar, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I have to point out, Terrence Mann, back in the day, really looked like Buster Poindexter. But I did like the transformation scene. They kind of built the face up from the skull.
It was the Raiders of the Lost Ark
In
scene
reverse,
in reverse.
Yeah. True.
I'm just watching like, wow,
And
isn't that some?
I completely forgot Billy Zane was in this movie. If I even knew who Billy Zane was at the time.
You know, I forgot he was in it after even seeing it. I was
No.
looking at the IMDb like, that was Billy Zane? No shit. They got a guy from Titanic in this?
And every time I see him in something, I immediately think of Zoolander.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen it?
No.
He has a cameo in it, Zane. That's very memorable. Now, there's about 20 minutes of the movie before the critters actually land on Earth or crash on Earth.
Right. They have they give you glimpses of them. They have a little few scenes before.
Well, you see them stealing the ship from the asteroid,
Yeah.
and then we cut to the cliche Midwestern town, and then 20 minutes later they land.
Yeah.
It felt like about 40 minutes. It just kind of dragged because it was effectively an episode of Mayberry up until then.
Oh yeah. But it was interesting that they actually had good actors. Even like the
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
That that everything was well acted for the townspeople for this movie, which is very weird.
Mhm. And I really got a kick out of the bounty hunters trying to figure out the car.
Oh yeah.
And they end up driving backwards like for a while with the lights on.
Which is so much more difficult to do than driving forward. I don't understand why they would have done that.
It was in reverse when they managed to get the engine to turn over, I guess, and
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
how they thought it worked. And I liked that they didn't say much in the movie. Terrence Mann had a few lines. The sidekick didn't. It was mostly a
Well,
silent performance.
he went through a few sidekicks.
Oh yeah, but none of them spoke.
And I mean, the man who, of course, had to have been the highest salary in this whole film, Mr. Neelix himself,
Hmm.
Ethan Phillips, was it?
I think so, Neelix. Yes, I don't remember. I mean, I remember Voyager. Now that you mention it, I remember him from that. My first thought when I saw him was Benson.
Well, of course, yeah.
He was the security chief or something.
Right, this was a couple years after Benson. I thought, when I looked up the IMDb, I'd assumed Benson went later than 84.
Really, it did seem to.
Actually, now that I think about it, this was filmed in 84, so this was right
Around
after
that time.
Benson
Okay.
ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did this right after Benson had wrapped up.
Hmm. Also, there's a scene where the bounty hunters in the cop car take down most of a church. Really
Oh, yeah.
reminded me of Blues Brothers. Now, the scene where the critter Krite eats the firework, and of course it just kind of explodes in him and he burps.
Yeah, and then falls over.
Did his face look a lot like Godzilla to you?
Godzilla. Oh,
He
I don't
kind
know.
of had a Godzilla thing going in the face.
Really, I think I keep thinking where the wild things are.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
Like even when they had the giant critter,
hmm
I mean, it was all which I think came before this. I think that came from
the
like the
book came
70s,
from
right?
like 70s or 60s.
Yeah.
But I think the big flaw with this movie and Gremlins, cute can't be scary.
Well, yeah. And I mean Gremlins was at least funnier, you know?
Yeah. They were really trying to be too scary with Gremlins.
People point out how dark the material of Gremlins actually is.
Mhm.
Going back and the story about the girl's father dying on Christmas and stuff.
Right.
But
It was perverse in that way, but it wasn't scary offhand, like this
right.
is trying to be.
Well, right. I don't think Gremlins was, it knew it was a kids movie
Mhm.
and it went with it. I mean, it had some things for the adults, but, mostly a kids movie. Very enjoyable.
Speaking of the comparisons between this and Gremlins, although widely believed to have been inspired by the success of Joe Dante's 1984 film Gremlins, director Stephen Herrick has refuted this in interviews, pointing out that the script was written by Dominic Muir long before Gremlins went into production and subsequently underwent rewrites to reduce the apparent similarities between the two films. So it's another one like Super and Kick-Ass where they were kind of created at the same time.
It's crazy. I mean, I just assumed this was a Gremlins
It
knockoff
definitely feels like it.
because it didn't get released until 86.
Incidentally, Stephen Herrick went on to make both Bill and Ted, the original, Excellent Adventure, and Mr. Holland's Opus.
Well,
So,
that's different.
really good director. but somehow started off with this. Yeah, this was his first film. So I guess that's part of the explanation.
Yeah, I mean, the real problem with this movie isn't that it wasn't scary. Did you believe for a second that anything was actually going to happen
No,
to the family
not at all.
before? Uh,
It was
it's
very much a sitcom in that sense. You knew
it,
everything was going to be happy by the end.
and the one title I'd propose for this was the world's longest Deus Ex Machina,
Mhm.
was that the aliens, of course,
Mhm.
the bounty hunters, were, you know, the gods from the machine.
Right, right.
And, you saw it coming from a mile away. They were, making their way to the house and stuff. You knew they were going to come down literally from the sky
Right.
and save this family. It just took an hour for them to do that.
Oh, and how many times did we have to be told that the critters were growing? They said it like 4 times.
You know what?
They could have just shown them getting bigger.
But they didn't, did they? They
Well,
really did. I think it was a
you
matter of,
see a shadow of a big one.
yes, you see one big one, and the rest of them pretty much stay the same size because I think they only had so much,
Hmm.
you know, budget wise.
Yeah. Now, I have to nitpick one thing, and it's not a scientific thing. There's no science in this movie. It's a logical thing. Because the critters are about the size of a Furby. Tiny little things.
Maybe a little bigger than that.
They have a shotgun in one scene. They run out of shells. And they're scrambling to get the shells out of the father's shirt pocket while he's injured. Why not just use it like a baseball bat?
Well, right. And what happened to the slingshot?
That too, yeah. There's a slingshot early on that's used as a well. It almost feels like a red herring because they put it in there and then they never use it again. They totally broke Chekhov's gun.
I was thinking the same thing too. They introduced this slingshot that the kid is quite good at using.
Hmm.
They send him out unarmed against these things because we also didn't mention that they shoot quills with
Yeah.
poison in them,
Right.
and they pretty much send him out unarmed. He
Hmm.
could have at least had the slingshot to have fended them off with that.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did like the kind of grungy, non-sci-fi-ness of the ship.
Oh yeah,
We see the inside of the alien ship toward the end of the movie, and it doesn't look like your typical alien ship. It's not geometrical and mirror polished and everything. It's really grungy and it looks kind of like a car engine. That was a nice touch. Although the ending was a bit confusing.
oh, the ending was terrible.
Well, no, okay, the very very ending we'll get to. The
You thought last week's ending was bad.
resolution. Because okay, the drunk whose name escapes me right now.
Otis? I don't know. I
Ah.
forget.
He throws a Molotov onto the critter ship as it's taking off, but yet what blows it up is a firework.
He threw the Molotov to ignite the firework.
Oh, okay. The kid dropped the firework, I guess, on the way
Yeah,
out.
the kid, he couldn't get it lit, and
Okay.
they had to get off.
Oh, okay.
And he threw the Molotov in,
Uh-huh.
and it took that long for it to go off.
Oh, it was just like a luckiest shot in the history of archery thing.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liked the "fuck you," they blew up the house kind of thing
But until they ruined that.
until, yeah, that just I just didn't know what to say. I
Yeah.
was just my jaw was just dropped at how bad that ending was.
Mm. Yeah. I'll explain that by way of my what have I
That
learned?
definitely lost some brain.
Yeah. I'm done with my notes. You got anything else?
Oh man, the 1980s.
Well, there's a lot of what were we thinking in this movie, yes.
It's weird because I see it,
Mhm.
and it's where, I'm from really, but find it hard to believe that I was there.
Yeah, this is very, very 80s, and not in a pastel colors, kind of
Although there's some
parachute
of that.
pants kind of way. There is some of that, but not that kind of 80s.
The
It's sort of the 80s TV mentality.
the bowling shirt with the Ghostbusters
Oh
nod on the
yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah. But it's that 80s sitcom mentality that is all over this movie.
Yeah, it just kind of makes you wonder why, They were really going for like a blockbuster here, weren't they?
And if that's true that it wasn't inspired by Gremlins, then they thought they really had something. And the director has proven himself to be very talented, in his later works.
Yeah.
So I don't quite understand. I mean, maybe it is just an 80s thing. Maybe it made sense back then. I do remember liking this when I saw it in 87 when I was like 15.
But that ending, holy shit.
I completely forgot about the ending, actually. I
Oh,
actually forgot about a lot of the movie until just
you're
watching
better off forgetting about that ending.
it. All right, on to sequels and remakes.
On the sequels and remakes.
This somehow managed to spawn 4 sequels. No, 3 sequels.
This is
I apologize. 3 sequels. Critters 2, the main course, in 1988, Critters 3 in 91, and Critters 4 in 92. We were in college in 92. I don't remember any further Critters movies. I would think that I would remember them at that point.
this is one of those things that you just catch late at night on the cable channel or whatever, or USA.
They had to be straight to video because I do not remember anything more than the first Critters going to the theater.
These, I mean, these weren't just something that you went out of your way to see.
True. Also, in December 2011, it was announced that a retrospective, never-before-seen documentary for the first film is currently in pre-production. The documentary will explore the origins of Critters, as well as cast and crew interviews and more.
Well, the origins, who gives a fuck, really? But the cast of this is fucking insane if you look at this cast.
Yeah.
Like, almost everybody in this cast has, like, they've done, like, over 200 things a piece.
Since this, I think Dee Wallace Stone at the time was still just E.T.'s mom.
She was from The Howling.
Oh, yeah, well.
I mean, she's done, like, hundreds of things, and a lot of them, it was in the middle of their career. I mean, some of them had been going, like, since the 70s.
Yeah, Terrence Mann has quite the resume. A lot of it is Broadway.
Yeah, he doesn't have, like, the filmography that some of these people do. Like, the father retired from acting in, like, 93 or something, but, like, even the kid,
yeah,
like,
Scott
went
Grimes
on
did a lot, especially particularly in the 80s.
right.
The fact
And
that I know his name offhand without even having to look it up explains that.
I mean, lately he's been like a Seth MacFarlane guy. Like, he's done voices on those. But a couple of these people are still working to this day, putting stuff out, working regularly all the way back to, like, 74 or 69. Like the guy that was the sheriff.
Oh, yeah, I could never come up with his name, but I've seen him in a million things.
Like, Emmett Walsh? How the fuck do you pick that as a stage name, dude?
Oh, that's Emmett Walsh.
Yes.
I know that name now that you say it. I just never put the face to it.
That you look at that man's IMDb, he has done at least one thing every year since, like, 68 or 69 to this year.
Right.
He has been working for, like, 45 years straight. That's nuts.
Yeah. All right, so on to Brains.
On to Brains.
Overall, it was very, very mediocre. I kind of enjoyed it at times, but I'm still going 2.5.
Oh, wow. I mean, I enjoyed it more than you did, I think. Well, now that you've given that, of course. um, I think I was up pretty high. I was almost to the recommending point.
Wow.
When that ending came along.
I was pretty much thinking of a 3 until that happened.
I was, I
knocked it down a half brain for me.
And then just once that ending came along, and the fact that, it was kind of boring because you knew the family was safe throughout the entire film. Yeah. At first you were kind of like, are they really going to, like, take somebody out? But then you figured out after a while that they're just not going anywhere. No matter how many poison darts they get hit with, how much they get bitten, they're still just going to keep coming back. I think somebody in the IMDb was like, damn, that father was tough. Because, he just kept getting eaten.
Incidentally, the body count was a cow, 2 humans, and several chickens. Only 2 humans died in the movie.
Really?
Well, Ethan Phillips' character being one of them. I don't remember who the other one was.
Well, yeah, and he obviously was just there for a day of filming, Yeah. Get the paycheck and get the fuck out. probably paid from that Minute Maid product placement in the very beginning.
All
So I'm going with three brains.
right. And what have we learned?
I learned that John Travolta just might be a waitress from Florida.
And I learned that any technology that can rebuild an exploded house with nothing more than what appeared to be the wind is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah, that's not an ending to protect.
All right, so until next week, when we'll be concluding the request trilogy with Stay Tuned, requested by Richard Hawes. Go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course the episode itself, which you're already listening to, links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, we'd really appreciate it. You also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review, up through 202. You also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form, we'll get to it. And the recommendations list, I'm surprised you actually considered it for this one.
I considered it. It was enjoyable, you know? It was fun.
It was enjoyable. Like I said, I was almost at a 3 until that ending.
It was fun. It was well acted.
Yeah.
But there just was no drama. It was poorly written.
Yeah. You can also email us at zombietakeout@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1 or for the alphanumerically challenged 414-368-9861. Always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee. And of course, until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are.
Do you ever consider slowing down on the whiskey, Charlie?
That the critters were growing.